Many of our shows are related to a particular occupation, such as a doctor or a lawyer, engineer, etc. But some people prefer to view their career as from a broader functional perspective. Today we're going to be speaking about the functional area of marketing. And joining us today are two guests, each representing a different point of view, one from a consumer products perspective and another one from an industrial or a retail marketing point of view. Stay tuned for Careers. My name is Peter Wolfl, and welcome to Careers. Our first guest today is Jim Gilroy. He comes from a retail and industrial marketing background. He's the Vice President of Sales and Product Marketing for Epson Canada Limited. He is also the General Manager of Computerway Limited, which is Epson's chain of retail stores. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Peter.
Our second guest today is Martha Reynolds, and she comes from more of a consumer marketing background. She is the Consumer Marketing Manager for the Grocery Division of Nestle Enterprises Limited. Welcome to the show, Martha.
Thank you, Peter.
Before we go any further, let's first try to establish what is marketing. Either of you want to tackle that question? And how does it differ from sales? Martha?
Well, I guess I can jump in on that. That was the very first question I got asked when I interviewed for a job coming out of university, actually.
Mm-hmm. Here you go again.
Here I go again. Marketing, in a nutshell, is really anticipating consumer needs, what consumers are going to be wanting next month, next year, in the next couple of years, and then trying to develop products or services then that can meet those needs.
Mm-hmm.
So marketing covers all the bases of a product or service, from designing the product itself, the pricing, the promotional package, the advertising.
Okay, and how would that differ from sales?
Selling is, from my standpoint, is when you've already got the product or the service, and then your job is to go out and sell it to a customer.
Get them to buy it.
Selling is part of the marketing.
Whether they need
function.
it or not.
That's right. No, actually,
isn't that really the difference? The salespeople really, they just try to get sales, and whether the people need it or not, whereas the marketing people, don't they usually try to first establish the need and then direct their whole strategy towards that end?
To make a good sale, hopefully you've done your marketing homework ahead of time and established that need.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, certainly, if the need isn't there, oftentimes products can be sold and not sold well because there isn't a need.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, you come from a sales background originally.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
How would you say that sales ties into marketing? How are they interrelated?
Well, I'd like to think, Peter, that if you have learned how to sell something over the years, that you probably have gained a pretty good understanding as to what people are after, what they want,
Mm-hmm.
what they need, which, if you then become involved in a marketing environment, gives you a little better opportunity to understand how to get the right product to the right place at the right time, and all those other cliche types of statements that surround most marketing courses.
Mm-hmm.
But a good, strong sales background certainly enables you to have a closer understanding for what people are apt to want, and in turn, what's apt to turn them on to your product.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, part and parcel, I guess, with what we're discussing right now, ultimately you have to have some kind of a strategy if you want to maximize your sales for whatever company you're working for. So, Martha, you're involved quite a bit with strategic marketing planning, are you not?
Mm-hmm.
And making marketing plans. What's involved? What is a marketing plan, first of all, and what's involved with going about putting it together?
The marketing plan, Peter, really is the blueprint for how you're going to manage a business or a line of products
Mm-hmm.
for usually a year a year time frame. And in the marketing plan, or what's involved actually in developing a marketing plan, is doing a lot of homework up front first, from sizing up your competition to studying the market trends, and then really trying to figure out whether or not your product should be adjusted or left the way it is, what the pricing should be for your product over the next year to cover your costs, for example, what your promotional package should be, what consumer message you want to be communicating in your advertising program that year. So it really covers the gamut.
There really are a lot of what-ifs, though, aren't there?
There sure are.
Because you never really know how many items, widgets the product or the customer is ultimately going to buy.
No, and the difficulty today is that the market's changing so rapidly. I mean, with new technologies, for example, one of the things that's bombarding us right now in the packaged goods industry is a whole host of new types of packages, from plastic retortable pouches to new microwavable dishes and so on and so forth. So you have to constantly anticipate, study, and
Sure.
to try to keep ahead of those trends.
Well, a lot of it is driven, a lot of times the market is really being driven by the competition,
Yes,
I guess.
by the competition, and you as part of the competition for them as well.
So you always have to try and stay ahead of them a little bit. That's the key.
You have to be prepared to fail as well. I
Yeah.
think Martha's alluding to that. You know, a good, strong marketer, Peter, is somebody who can bring product to market and be prepared to have a marketing program fall flat and still be sufficiently resilient to get back up and try again. You know, there have to be people in the marketing discipline, if you will, who have got that level of resilience and are capable of bouncing back. Because if you're easily discouraged, it's very simple to get down very quickly after a product failure, particularly in the packaged goods industry and certainly in industrial marketing as well.
Well, there are a large number of product failures on the market. I mean, I think for every 10 new products that are introduced in any given year, maybe one will succeed and be around 5 years from now. So that's not a high success rate.
So when you put together your market plan, part of that would be the forecast of how many products you plan on selling, how much money that'll make, how much it's going to be costing you. I guess in some ways you want to try and make that look as good as possible to impress everybody around you, but then at the same time you don't want to make it look too good, because if it doesn't work, then that'll affect maybe your performance review at the end of the year. Or
If you don't make your numbers, it may well affect your performance review at the end of the year. But you're quite right. A large chunk of the marketing plan is the financial analysis, and do the numbers make sense? What pricing is reasonable, fair, and so on and so forth. And quite frankly, the marketing plans are presented to management, and they're familiar with the businesses. So if the numbers look terribly outlandish, then they'll get shot down. So we're really encouraged to be realistic, but build in a little bit of a stretch
it's all
as well.
part of the budgeting process as well, right? What would Epson's marketing strategy be?
Well, Epson probably is unique in the computer industry, Peter, in that we are targeting three separate and distinct markets. We market product directly to end users, Fortune 500 accounts, utilizing our own sales force and our own corporate marketing program and advertising approach. Secondly, we market to another channel, which is an independent dealer channel, consisting of some 300 to 350 dealers across the country, who sometimes view us as being in direct competition, of course, with their direct marketing effort. And at the other end of the scale, we own and operate our own chain of retail computer stores. So it's an awful lot like walking a tightrope day in, day out, because, of course, the dealers, as I say, sometimes perceive that you are coming at them from the top down and the bottom up. But in fact, we are selling the same products successfully through three channels by virtue of being able to differentiate the kinds of product offerings and the different types of markets that we are addressing each of those channels of distribution to attack. So it's a challenge, but lots of fun.
By having your own stores, are you using them also for test marketing purposes?
To some degree, yes. We do sell products that we bring in from the Orient, and will from time to time do a test market in a local area to see whether or not a product is going to fly, and of course, if it does, spread it across the rest of the chain.
Well, how did you initially develop an interest in marketing?
I guess from the early days of selling shoes at Eaton's, and as a matter of fact, Martha and I discovered that we both worked for Eaton's in the early days, selling selling a variety of things. I ended up developing a love of retail and decided to get into my own business and started a piano and organ business, which allowed me to get involved with everything from finding the right site to building the interior of the store, to painting and decorating it, to finding the product, to developing an advertising campaign, deciding whose products I was going to carry and why, and so on. So the entire marketing cycle is the sort of thing you get into when you're in that kind of an endeavor. And of course, nothing keeps you going like owing the bank an awful lot of money. So if you know that at the end of the week, the only measure of your own success or failure as a marketer, if you will, is
how much money you still have in the bank?
Going back to the bottom line again, that's really what it's all about, and that's probably the trial by fire method of becoming involved in marketing.
Well, having had your own small business for a while, did you find that experience was valuable in your current career?
Absolutely, no question. It allowed me to involve myself in opening a consulting business. And having lived all those moments of agony and ecstasy, if you will, along the way personally, gave me a much better idea as to what my clients were after.
Because I'm wondering if sometimes marketers who never had any kind of small business experience are almost like learning to swim with water wings on them because they're in a kind of a sheltered environment. If things go wrong, well, there's still lots of money to cover for it. And whereas in a small business, if things go wrong equally or on a proportional level, they may be out of business.
You are a little bit, there's no question you are sheltered in a large company because it's not your money, but I'll never forget one boss I had used to, with every recommendation that I went to him for approval on, he would constantly feed back to me. He'd say, Martha, now if this was your money, what would you do? And just by being asked that kind of a question, it forced you to stop and really evaluate and think about what you would do. But nevertheless, we're held financially accountable for our businesses. So
you act as a profit center?
Yes. We manage the profit and the loss statement for the businesses that we work on.
I see.
And we're accountable for those expenses that we have direct control over.
Okay. Well, Martha, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you decided to get involved with marketing?
As Jim said, I probably started my working career at Eaton's, but worked in a number of different companies. I actually, my first degree was a degree in French literature, and while I was very interested in literature and reading, it wasn't terribly good for finding jobs, so I went back to school and took a business degree or master's in business administration. And the year I graduated, a number of companies were looking for new recruits, so I was lucky enough to get hired by a company here in Toronto called Warner Lambert, and was able to get excellent marketing training there.
So what really motivated you to pick marketing, though? Is there something in particular?
There was actually. I was quite keen. I worked at Air Canada for a couple of years as a passenger agent, selling and meeting the public and so on. And I wanted to get involved with designing the programs and the plans, and early on realized that it was the marketing function or the marketing area that did all of those things.
Right.
So that's when I decided to go back to school, study business, and then by the time it came to graduation, I decided to look for a company where I would get excellent marketing training. And although Air Canada is an excellent company, consumer packaged goods companies like Warner Lambert, Procter & Gamble, Nestle have built their reputations on building strong marketing departments.
I see. Martha, we're going to take a short break right now, but when we return, We're going to continue speaking about today's topic, which is marketing, both from an industrial and a consumer point of view. We'll be right back. Martha, in your current position now as consumer marketing manager, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, Peter, I get my fingers involved in a lot of different aspects of the business, from inventory management, forecasting. I work with 3 people on my team, and they'll put together a lot of the forecasting and then the inventory numbers, so I'll sit down with them and we'll review them together. Quite frankly, I spend a lot of my time training and supervising these 3 people that I'm working with. So that covers the gamut from looking at new packaging development, helping someone develop a new product, putting together a business plan for a new product, which covers things from forecasting the sales, determining the pricing, figuring out what the promotion strategy should be, the advertising strategy, and so on. I spend a lot of my day actually meeting with a lot of departments, troubleshooting, trying to clear the way.
Do you interact with a lot of other groups within the company?
Oh, indeed I do. I work with, as I've already mentioned, the inventory and distribution people, a lot of the other marketing departments. We talk back and forth to share
ideas.
plans. We spend an awful lot of time talking with our sales department, our account planning department. We're on the phone a lot to our production people at our factories. And we have a consumer affairs department, so from time to time we'll touch base with them. Our quality assurance people. I do an awful lot of work with our technical services department, the people who physically develop the new products. I spend probably a third of my time developing new products. So
Really?
that takes up a lot of time in meetings.
Are there any new products that you're going to let us know about?
No.
They're all top secret.
All top secret.
Okay. You have a little bit of a display here. Can you let us know what you've got? What, I guess you're trying to show us here how important packaging really is.
Yes, I am. 2 very diverse groups of product. The product in the cans are Libby's line of canned pasta products, which are children-oriented products. Product in the brown labels is Libby's deep brown beans. The ones in the boxes are, you can probably read the labels, are Stouffer's and Lean Cuisine. One of the points that I wanted to make was that given all the number of products in the stores today, it's becoming harder and harder for consumers to go to the shelf and find the product that they're looking for. What we've tried to do in both cases is create a bit of a billboard effect, so the consumer can actually look for the blue block of products in the case of canned pastas, for example, or look for the block of red products in the frozen food category, to look for the Stouffer products. And then it becomes a much simpler process of then breaking it down to the various varieties. In the case of Stouffer's, if they're looking for macaroni and cheese.
So are you somewhat involved in the actual display that gets set up in the store?
Actually, yes. We work very closely with our account planning team to put together a program that would cover the merchandising opportunities that we see are available, and of course we get involved in the package development itself, package design.
Okay. We're going to go to a little bit of a clip now that you brought along, a 30-second commercial. And it's, what's it showing now? Libby's Alphagetti.
Yes, it's a television commercial called Looney Letters.
Okay.
I wanted to give you just a little bit of history on Alphagetti. The brand was introduced in 1965, and up to that point, mothers could only virtually serve their children canned spaghetti, the long strands of spaghetti. So we came up with a way to make it a lot easier for moms to serve their children canned spaghetti by shaping the pasta into little alphabet letters. Made the product fun for kids, and it was a bit of an educational experience too.
They can try to spell words on
That's
their plate.
right. Hi, Mom. I am fine today. So, but since that time, a number of products have been introduced as copycats, and we've done it ourselves with Zoodle, Smurfagetti, Competitive brands have come out. So with Alphagetti being the daddy of the category, understandably it's come under a lot of heat, and over the years its volume has eroded somewhat. So a few years ago, with all the exciting new children's products coming out, like Smurfagetti and Zoodles and so on, we decided Alphagetti needed a little bit more attention, so we decided to redesign the package, and that's the package that you see now. And we wanted to make the product a little bit more fun for kids, so we developed a television commercial that really brought Alphagetti into the 1980s and made it a little bit more exciting.
Kids are very really targeted at the kids.
Oh, indeed it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a look at it right now then.
Alphagetti, pasta letters in tomato sauce. Food for thought.
Well, that was great. I think Jim and I are both sold. We're ready to go and buy some Alphagetti, right?
Definitely.
Can I take your order, please?
Sure thing.
So there really is quite a bit of planning that goes into putting a campaign like that together.
An awful lot, yeah, an awful lot of...
Aren't you taking a risk when you redesign the packaging, that people won't recognize it?
You are, Peter, but that's where, when we get into the debate, do you make a revolutionary change versus an evolutionary change? And for a well-established brand that's very familiar to consumers, it's very rare that you'd want to make such a drastic change to the package that the consumer would not be able to recognize it.
Okay. I guess that must be one of the most interesting parts of your job when you get involved with some of these television commercials.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Jim, back to you. In your line of work, you're involved a lot more with trade advertising. Is that right?
That's right. There are really two aspects of that, Peter. One is advertising to the trade, as you say, which is essentially other manufacturers, and you also want to get your message across to retailers and people in your account base. I guess the other part of the advertising coin is really the sort of corporate image advertising program that you launch, which is targeted towards Financial Post 500 accounts and end users. If you're attempting to position your company as one that provides products and services that will meet their requirements, you want them to have a very comfortable feeling that they can deal with you directly as opposed to through other channels. So they do dictate really two separate and distinct approaches to advertising, and of course they also dictate separate and distinct media usages.
I see.
In product advertising, which is product price oriented, in our company we typically use very strongly consistent print media, newspaper primarily, whereas into corporate account marketing and more corporate image marketing, we have our own in-house vehicle that we produce, which is a magazine called Epson Today, and that gets mailed to a variety of people who are Financial Post 500 executives. Totally separate and distinct kinds of marketing.
In your type of marketing, I imagine you wouldn't have as high an advertising percentage of sales budget as maybe they might have in consumer marketing. Are there any rules of thumb that you would use for deciding how much money you're going to be spending on advertising?
It's an interesting question. I think it depends on the product that you're bringing to market, and obviously whether or not you're introducing it right out of the chute to ensure that it's going to be successful. Obviously, you will allocate more advertising funds to it. In the case of the microcomputer industry in Canada, if you are introducing a new product, you may well want to allocate something like 3 to 5% of its anticipated gross revenue for advertising purposes. If you are a retail chain, you may want to attempt to get a new retail chain off the ground by allocating 5 to 7%, and hopefully be able to drop that back to closer to the 2.5 to 3% level
What kind of percentages would we be talking about in consumer products?
We're actually not too far off, depending of course on the size of the business.
Mm-hmm.
In a fairly large size business, you'd be looking probably at about 3 to 5%. A ballpark figure for a television campaign in Canada is probably in the neighborhood of about $1.5 to $2 million. It's astounding.
Yeah, so it's very difficult for the little business
Mm-hmm.
to get their product well known.
It sure
isn't it?
is. Yeah.
Well, we only have a few minutes left. In this time, maybe we can try to discuss if you have any advice for those people interested in marketing, considering it as a career for the first time, or who are maybe thinking of switching over into marketing somewhere in midstream. Do you have any advice, Martha?
Not really advice, Peter, but as we talked about before the show, we thought perhaps some of the qualifications or qualities that companies like Nestle would be looking for might be of interest to your audience.
What would you be looking for in a candidate who approaches you for a job in marketing?
We look for people who are, first of all, keen, committed, who want to put in the hours, because it's not a 9-to-5 career. We look for people with leadership ability or potential down the road, people who've taken initiative or who are willing to take the initiative, people who can analyze and size up a situation. Those are some of the key qualities I guess we look for.
What about in your type of environment? Would it be much the same? Or?
It's actually very similar, Peter. I look personally for people with a great deal of enthusiasm. I would put more stock in someone who's extremely enthusiastic than someone who's academically credentialed to the back teeth.
The commitment that's going to get you through a lot of
precisely. Yeah, as we've talked about, it's really the kind of discipline in which you have to work long hours. And in order to do that, you need the enthusiasm and the resilience and a good sales background, you know?
I've heard that marketing in many ways is just common sense to a large degree. There's only so much that you can learn in theory from the universities or the schools, but then it really comes down to having good common sense. Do you think that the schools are a little bit too theoretical?
Yes.
No question.
No
Really?
question. Some of us were actually talking about that today, and the difference between what you learn about marketing in university is quite different from what you actually live on a day-to-day basis. You use a lot of the marketing principles that you study in school, but there's so much more.
It's different when you get out into the real world. Well, thank you, Martha and Jim, for joining us today on Careers.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, too.
I'm Peter Wolfl. From all of us here at the studio, good luck in your own career.